Hey everyone, Brick City Brown Chick coming at you with another episode. And this week, I'm going to talk about something that I do not talk about very much. I talk about lots of subjects on this podcast. It is a life lessons podcast, which for me means here are some things I've been through and here are things I've learned, or here's something other people are going through and here are some lessons we all can learn. But one thing I really don't talk about a lot is marriage. And that's because marriage is different for everyone. What works for you may not and probably will not work for me. But I wanted to talk this week about people being on single women's case about getting married. It is an obsession right now with men wanting to tell single women that they need to settle down and get married for fill in the blank reason. We've got the right wing here in the United States wanting to push the birth of white children and wanting to give women a $5,000 incentive to have a baby. And let's all be real honest here. I don't know a whole lot about children because I don't have any, and that's on purpose. But $5,000 probably won't get you through the first year of diapers. That's just reality. So that's the right wing in America. And then I hear all these Black male and some female podcasters talking about these young Black women, famous women, who have had children out of wedlock and how horrible that is and how they're all wringing their hands. Keke Palmer is an example. Halle Bailey is an example. Cash Doll is an example. The men are saying he's not going to buy the cow since you gave him the milk for free and also you've had his child. The women are saying women need to make better choices and stop choosing these loser, ridiculous, wannabe rappers, producers, whatever they want to be this week. And I am firmly in that camp that women need to make better choices because the reality is men are going to change. And as a man will do what you allow him to do. The first time he cheats on you, you need to be out of there. There's no second chances. There's no, oh, I'm sorry. There's no, oh, I can't keep it in my pants. Like, no, the first time, if you tell him this is the line and he crosses it, you have to be a woman of your word and be out of there. But I wanted to talk about people obsessing about everybody getting married. And everybody has advice for what single women should do. And the advice is usually based on the following premise. Single women are miserable because they're single. That's it. That's the premise. That single women have to be miserable because they don't have a man. And it is generational to a point. I mean, I hear young men say it. I hear men my age say it. That a woman cannot possibly be happy without a man. That is not true. I know several single women who are happy and good. And by happy and good, I don't mean they're single and they're out here looking for a man. I mean they are single and good with it and have no intention of getting into a relationship. Now, are these women mostly my age, women in their late 40s, early 50s? They are. Are these women who have had bad experiences in prior relationships? They are. But I think one of the primary differences between men and women is most women, if they've gone through a bad enough relationship or a bad enough series of relationships, are going to say, okay, I'm done. I am not doing this anymore. Whereas men will just go and go and go because they think at some point they're going to find the right woman. And most women really are not wired that way. Women of a certain age, I think, fall into one of two camps. There are the friends of mine I know who have had some bad experiences and who are like, I'm done dating. I'm not doing this anymore. And then there are the older women in my family, including my mother, who all get to a certain point and are just like, okay, you know what? I had a great husband. He died. He's gone. I'm never going to get another man like him. Therefore, I'm just out of this dating pool. I'm just not doing it anymore. And that is a very hard concept for men to understand because, like I said, men are wired differently. That is not the way most men's brains work. Something my husband said to me years ago about a totally different subject, but it really applies here, is he said men's philosophy is you find a horse that can jump the fence. And for all the horses who can't jump the fence, you shoot them until you find one that can jump the fence. Now, that's a brutal way of looking at it, but I really do think a lot of men feel that way about relationships. Like, oh, this one didn't work, I'll try this one. Oh, this one didn't work, I'll try this one. Oh, that didn't work, I'll try this one. Where women get to a point where we're just like, nope, not doing this anymore. I'm good with my life and I don't need the extra aggravation. Now, one of the things I saw in the last couple of weeks that I've heard several podcasters talk about that really pushed my buttons was part of an interview from a podcast called Dear Future Wifey. And that podcast has made the news a few times in the last couple of months. But this particular episode was about a couple who has been married for more than 30 years. They got married young, and she was 18 or 19, and he was maybe 21. And it was what we used to call a shotgun wedding. She was pregnant, and so they got married. But he shared with her early in the marriage that he felt like he never had an opportunity to go out and have fun. Even though the whole time they were dating, she said, and he freely admitted it, that he had a bunch of other girlfriends. And he would always use these sports analogies with her. And one of the things he said was, you're my first string, you're my starter, but I have a bunch of backups on the bench. Totally unbelievable. I mean, I cannot imagine, even at 17, hearing a man say that and going, okay, I'll just go along with this. But as the episode went on, it became very clear that the wife didn't have high self-esteem when she was 17 and now still doesn't have high self-esteem in her 50s. They talked about how she was not his preference. She was not the kind of woman he usually went for. He liked light-skinned women or biracial women with straight hair, and that was not her, and he was not attracted to her. He would tell her that he regretted marrying her, that he didn't love her, all these kinds of things that would make most women pack their bags and leave. But she stayed because she said she prayed about it a lot and that God told her, this was the place she needed to be and that someday he would love her and someday their marriage would be happy. It was really a cautionary tale about how warped religion can make people think. I think God gets blamed for a whole lot of things, followed very closely by the devil. Either the devil made me do it, or God said this is what I should do. And she really made a lot of excuses for his behavior. And her solution to support him and get him to understand what he was doing is, she said, when she knew he was going away for the weekend to meet with one of his mistresses, she would iron his clothes. What? Are you serious? But that's what she said she did. And so, toward the end of the episode, the host of the podcast asked her what advice would she give a single woman who watched the two of them together and thought, I don't want to build a bear. I don't want to have to teach a man how to treat me. I don't want to have to go through the fires of hell to get to heaven. I don't want to do all the things she did to finally get her husband to be faithful and to understand. And the wife's answer was very telling. She said, what I would say to them is, that's why you're single. Holy cow. I don't know what I thought she was going to say, but that was not it at all. And it was so disturbing that her experience has taught her experience with her husband has taught her that marriage for a certain period of time is pain and suffering, and you have to go through all these things and build your husband up to become the person that you know he's capable of being, rather than he having been that person all along, he having been that person to begin with. And they were both very proud of the fact that they have been married 32, 33 years now. And my first thought about that was, a lot of people brag about how long they've been married, but if you separate the two of them and talk to them, especially to the women, and ask them, how many of those years have you been happy? You're going to get a range of responses. And in some way, I think the older generation did a disservice to people of my generation, to Gen X, to the millennials who came after us, to the Gen Z kids who are coming up now, in that they talked about how important a longevity of a marriage was without putting it into context. And what I mean by context is, you can say your grandparents were married for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, however long they were married. But the context of that is back in those days, women did not leave their husbands. In many states, women were not allowed to initiate divorce, that your grandmother was being abused by your grandfather, or that your grandfather was cheating and had a whole other family on the other side of town, but all anybody ever talks about is how long they were married. So, longevity is not a good indicator of whether a relationship is happy, is good, is healthy. But that's kind of the bar that was set for many of us who came afterwards. So, what I want to say today is, can everyone get off the case of the single women for whatever reason they're single? If they are 20 something and decided they don't want to be in a relationship, okay. If they're 30 something and divorced and decided, yeah, they're done and they don't want to do it again, okay. If they're 40 something and they've never been married, but they've been in a series of bad relationships and have just decided, nope, they're done. They don't want to do this anymore. Okay, let's leave them alone. People have to come to their own realization and understanding of what being in a relationship is all by themselves. And if they're adults, they really don't need other people's advice and opinions about what they're doing with their lives. So I came up with a list of things that people need to do or stop doing with single women. So just because you think a woman is miserable because she's single doesn't mean she is. So if you're a man, or if she's gay and you're a woman and you're not interested in her, don't lecture her about why she's single. She does not appreciate it. Ladies, if the man you're dating talks terribly about his exes and frequently, run. Because A, you will be an ex at some point, and B, he will talk to the new woman about you the same way he talks to you about his exes. If the man you are seeing has a baby mama or two or three and he badmouths all of them, also run. That is not a good sign. You will not be the woman to change him. A lot of women go into relationships thinking, I can save him. I'm different. I'm special. It's not that you're not special, it's just that you won't be special to him. So that's another situation you should just flee. Whatever type of wife you choose to be, if you meet someone and you fall in love and you decide you want to get married, whatever wife you choose to be, make sure it's your choice. I am not someone who has an issue with trad wives or stay-at-home moms or working moms. Whatever kind of mom and wife you want to be, make sure that's what you want. Make sure it's not pressure from your fiance or from your mother or from his parents or from your church. If his vision of what a wife is and your vision of the wife you want to be do not align, do not marry that person. because that's a no compromise situation. There's a huge difference between I want to stay at home and I want to be in the working world. I had a working mother. My mother went back to work. She was supposed to take a year off. She was a school teacher. She was supposed to take the school year off when I was born in July. She said by December she was losing her mind and she had to go back to work. And it wasn't because she didn't love me, it didn't want to be with me. It was because it was the 1970s and there was no such thing as cell phones or the internet. And so she was home all day with an infant who slept and ate and pooped. And that was the extent of it. There was no adult conversation. There was no outside stimulation. There was none of that. And so she really felt the need to go back to work. So that's what she did. And I totally understand that. Being a working mother is not for everybody. Being a stay-at-home mother is not for everybody. But just make sure the person you're in a relationship with agrees on what your view is. Marriage primarily is about trust, honesty, and communication. And if the person you're planning to marry doesn't give you those in abundance, you need to walk away because it's not going to get easier. It's really not. If you decide you want to be married, compromise is the key in marriage. But that doesn't mean you should compromise yourself or your values. And that goes back to what I said about being a traditional wife or I don't know what we call them, non-traditional wife, whichever. Just make sure you compromise with the person and not compromise yourself. If you decide that you don't want to be a wife at all under any circumstances, don't be a wife. Don't let religion or family or anything else pressure you into that experience, because then you really will be miserable. You will not be happy because you will not be doing what you wanted to do. I'll use an example from my own life. My husband and I were on the same page when we got married about not wanting to have children. We were both very clear about that. We told everybody. We told my mother, we told his mother, we told our relatives, we told our friends, we told everybody we were not having children. Several of my aunts came up to me on our wedding day and said, "So when are you getting pregnant?" Like I hadn't been saying for the past 3 years that we were not having children. And even all these years later, we've been married almost 26 years now. People are still just kind of dumbfounded, like, "You don't have children?" No. And they always stop and wait. They're waiting for a sad story, I figured out. They're waiting for me to say, "Oh, I was infertile," or "Oh, we couldn't get pregnant," and "Oh, this happened," and "Oh, that happened." So what I've started saying is, we're childless by choice. And that clears everything up, and then people don't ask follow-up questions or don't expect some sort of sad story, because it's not a sad story. This is a conscious choice that we made. But if we were not as strong people as we are, we could have gone down the rabbit hole of, well, we're married and everybody says we should have kids, so let's have some kids. And then we would have been miserable parents because we would have talked ourselves into something that we didn't want to do. So if you don't want to get married, be happy, be good with it, and just say to folks, listen, it's not for me. And just leave it at that. You don't owe anybody a detailed explanation. It's your life, and you should live it your way. And my final piece of advice is all of us know at least one couple that's been married forever. Every time we see them or after we see them, we just sort of shake our heads and go, yeah, these people are miserable. They've been miserable for years and they should have called it quits a long time ago. Always strive in your relationships to not be those people, to not look back 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line and say, boy, I really wish I had spent the last 20 or 30 years with the person I chose. Getting married and choosing who you're going to marry are two of the biggest decisions you'll ever make in your life. And it's incredibly important that you pick the right person for you. The key part of that sentence is for you, not the person your mother would have chosen, not the person his mother would have chosen, not, someone somebody else would have chosen, but the right person for you. I can happily say that that is what I did, that my husband is a good guy, and that we have a good life. Does that mean we never fight? Absolutely not. Anybody who's married who tells you that they never argue is lying. Point blank, period. There are always arguments, big ones or small ones or disagreements or whatever. Do I think we argue less than most married people? I do, because we're very similar personalities and we tend to agree on things more often than disagree. But there are always going to be silly things that you argue about or fight about. The key is to always communicate, to talk it out, to get it out so you can move forward. If you hold on to it, you become passive aggressive about it, and that's not healthy for any relationship. So today I really did just want to say, can we give all the single ladies a break and let them be happy and find their peace, whether that is alone or with someone else. Understand that they are grown women making grown women choices for their grown women life. Thank you for joining me today. If you are not subscribed to this podcast, there's a subscribe button right underneath my head down here somewhere. Please subscribe. Please pass on the podcast to someone else you think will enjoy it. I said last week I was going to be getting back into my musical topics. I am almost done. I'm putting the finishing touches on the next episode in that series, so please look for that next week. And everybody have a great week. Take care.